The suppression of gold and silver, I think, has been exposed, and the countries around the world are using it against us. And maybe this is the understanding and the realization that this administration has come to. You're seeing the price slowly move up, not too fast, not too slow.
But it's doing better than anyone thought it would. After not doing well or impressing for a long time, all of a sudden you got silver to a 14-year high. You have China going around the world as the second largest producer of it. They buy all of the doré and concentrate from Latin America, especially from Mexico and Peru. Russia has made it clear that it is part of their strategic stockpile. They were the first government to do this. China has bought more than 800 million ounces in the last 6 years. Now you have Saudi Arabia putting a lot of money into SLV. For gold, the relative strength measure is above 68. For silver, it is above 51. It's also high, but both are still below the levels of 83 and 88 that were reached during previous bull runs. Since $50 has been a limit for silver prices for over a decade, breaking through it could bring in a lot of retail buyers and short-term traders. If it is broken, it will probably start a new phase of speculation. Based on how things stand right now, a change in strategy is coming. Gold is slowly taking the place of U.S. Treasuries because gold has been doing better than bonds for decades. Andy Schectman, a macro expert, says that this change means the dollar will no longer be the only world reserve currency because countries will no longer believe U.S. debt because the U.S. is bankrupt. On the other hand, Andy says not to be fooled by the price. The slow rise of silver isn't just a technical trend, it's a move by major powers to build up their reserves. Most people don't even notice that countries like China, Russia, India, and even Saudi Arabia are manipulating the West. Russia's decision to focus on China as a main trading partner and add silver to its strategic reserves have produced a secondary market that is separate from the way prices are set in the West. By 2025, Russia's silver sales to China had grown by 80% year over year. Settlements in yuan rubles and getting around systems based on dollars made it easier. Don't worry about trade fights. The new tariffs by the U.S. are less about economy and more about a desperate race to bring important resources back to the U.S. Andy Schectman says that while the U.S. was busy with other things, the BRICS countries were storing metals, buying exchanges, and protecting areas with lots of resources. BRICS central banks have been in charge of buying gold straight from miners in their own countries, and this way of doing things changes the way traditional Western channels work on a number of big commodity exchanges. According to data from the World Gold Council, 19 out of 36 central banks got the best deals on gold purchases when they bought it straight from domestic sources through a number of important strategic partnerships. It's time for Andy Schectman's sharp insights from his most recent chat with Mario and Nico. To make sure you don't miss a moment when truth meets the market, make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon. Let's start. Gold won't take the place of the dollar. Gold will take the place of the government, which is what backs the dollar. If you look at the price of gold over the last 25 years, it has doubled the performance of the 10-year treasury with no counterparty risk. Now think about putting 5 billion rubles in U.S. treasuries or foreign exchange savings as sanctions against Russia. It's a big deal. It's really important. In other words, gold is an asset that isn't also someone else's debt, and it's doing much better than the credit market. Check out how gold did last year. It went up 40%. The U.S. Treasury had been in power for 4.5 years. The Treasury is up 2.5% so far this year, which is halfway through the year. Make a call. It's not even that much, but let's call it $11 down. So you're down 8.5%, and gold is back up 40%. This is a case where not only is it doing better, but it also has no partner risk, which is a big deal. It's also, I think, the foundation of a new method for things. We're seeing all of these countries use it instead of banks. It seems like a big deal to me. For the dollar, the Treasury market, and this new scheme, I think it's a big deal. And it's one that makes people feel good about trusting it instead of trusting a country that is broke and bankrupt, putting tariffs and bans on people or countries. A lot of people around the world have had enough. It's one thing to do that and clean up. We're broken. We have no money left. And after what we've seen in the 4 years before this administration, lawlessness, open borders, the judicial system being called into question as to whether it's two-tiered or not, election involvement or not, immigration, I don't need to go over all of that again. Everyone is sick of it. And the stick is being held out instead of the olive branch. You also talk about whether or not we should do this with taxes. As the world's reserve currency, Mario has given us an amazing luxury by letting everyone buy our goods with dollars. We expect them to put the reserves in treasuries, which has kept the prices of assets in this country high. It has kept things that we buy at Walmart low. We've really been able to raise our standard of living thanks to the kindness of our foreign financiers. And things are now different. This is Triffin's problem. You have to wonder, The world could take the dollars we print out of thin air to pay for the things they work hard to make. So putting extra reserves in treasuries keeps our living standards high, the prices of our assets high, interest rates low, and the prices of our things low. Isn't that the real trade-off? We say it's not fair, but is it really? I believe we should be watchful about what we wish for. Anyway, I think the days of the dollar being the only world reserve currency are quickly coming to an end. Since November, we've become net importers, not since the start, but since the election. I think someone talked to Trump about this. Someone spoke up in his ear and told him, look, the BRICS countries are collecting a lot of precious metals and other things as well. The Chinese bought base metals on the London Metals Exchange. For the Belt Road to work, it needs to connect with countries that have a lot of resources but aren't very developed yet. It's all about getting things. So I think someone told him, if we don't do this, we're dead in the water as a country. And I don't think it's just about gold. They just changed the name of silver as an important mineral and platinum as an important material. People who know this know that gold, silver, platinum, and all of these other valuable things are probably worth a lot more than the money being used to buy them. That's what I think they're doing. But they lied about what they meant. There was a lot of talk about how it was taxes, tariffs, and arbitrage. It's not true. It's taxes and arbitrage. It's not like that. Everyone will think you're telling them you're not going to give it back, which is the trick to get it back. This is a smart move. Really, Mario, I think that's what it all comes down to in the end. Everyone in the UK is in the same mess as us. Saw a report that someone in the UK wrote about a year or two ago. They said, we are screwed because we've given up so much, all of our natural resources that we need, and we're depending on other countries like China. And I think that's kind of what the US has come to realize. All of this, which is being called Trump's taxes, is, I think, much deeper than that. But that was just a cover so they could bring back as much as they could without getting caught and getting in the way of their own goals. In the month of September alone, 42 million ounces were brought into COMEX. 42 million ounces, or 1,308 tons, were sent to COMEX. That's a huge amount in a month with no deliveries. Silver hit a 14-year high for you. You have China going around the world as the second largest producer of it. They buy all of the doré and concentrate from Latin America, especially from Mexico and Peru. Russia has made it clear that it is part of their strategic stockpile. They were the first government to do this. India has bought more than 800 million ounces in the last 6 years. Now you have Saudi Arabia putting a lot of money into SLV. Though I dislike SLV, a close examination shows that they bought enough to be able to expect delivery, which they will most likely do. Asymmetrical means that the downside is the least and the upside is the most. This is how I think of silver when I think of the word. It has been pushed down for a very long time. The only way to stop or change something is to keep pushing it in the same direction over time. The US used to be able to do this too. This used to be possible in the West. There is a reason why the UK, the LVMA, and COMEX in the US were able to do it. It could be the military-industrial complex, which is what I argue for silver, or Gibson's paradox with gold, which says that real interest rates and gold are inversely related. Those things work when there's nothing to do. The global South, on the other hand, is now rich, well-organized, driven, and smart, and they're using these things against us. And I always bring up what the head of the BRICS grain exchange said a year ago when it was still being built. He then said, look, we grow and eat more grain than people in the West do, but that will change. I always said that, but the price is out of our hands. Things are controlled by COMEX, but that will change when this new grain market opens. The demand that comes from BRICS will change things. Take that off. Because of this, I would just say that I think this has been made public. I believe that the trick used to hide gold and silver prices has been found out, and countries all over the world are using it against us. For this government, this may be what they understand and have come to realize. You can see the price slowly going up, not too fast or too slow, but it's suddenly doing better than everyone thought it would after a long time of not doing well at all. A lot of people won't even notice it. That's the crazy part. Someone is seeing it, though, and they have the power to bring 42 million ounces into COMEX in September with contracts for delivery signed in just a few days. We should think about this. No matter who is doing this, they are incredibly smart and wealthy to be able to do it. We are seeing the quiet start of a new world. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is coming together to support a new way of running the economy. M-Bridge, a cross-border payment system that doesn't use the dollar and is already faster and cheaper than SWIFT, is what will really change things. The financial dominance of the West is being questioned. In the constantly changing world of global finance, rumors coming from Beijing say that China might be about to make a big move, announcing a new plan that could make the yuan a strong competitor in the international currency field. China is making the yuan more widely used around the world by letting it be freely exchanged for gold. There's more going on here than just trade. A new banking system with a physical backbone is being built right now. It's not an accident that China is strategically gathering gold. It's a smart way to protect against being dependent on the dollar and could help the yuan's reputation. China's declared gold reserves are now 2,298.53 tons, worth over $208 billion as of the second quarter of 2025. They are still being bought, with purchases going on for the ninth month in a row through July. We need to go back to the interview. I've also talked a lot about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They are the biggest military and financial group in the area, in the whole world. At least Xi, Modi, and Putin are saying that they're all partners, not enemies in this. But the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is made up of 41% of the world's people, 34% of its GDP, and 24% of its land area. It's very important. I think you're looking at Trump overplaying his hand with India by putting them in this group by setting 50% tariffs. The BRICS meeting will be held in India next year. Good to know. There seems to be peace on their borders again, if that makes sense. Saw meetings between Xi and Modi and work together. And I believe it is a mistake under Trump. Numerous things are going on at the moment, but when I think of the BRICS, what is the most important? I think what's most important is that their BRICS is getting better and better. By now, most people should know it as MBridge, right? The BIS, or Bank of International Settlements, is the reason we haven't heard much about Mario. At the 11th hour, the BIS did something that was almost like spying on the BRICS countries when they were working on their BRICS Innovation Hub, or the BIS Innovation Hub. They finally came out at the last minute after working with China for 4 years to develop the technology, which is mostly Chinese technology. China, Hong Kong, Thailand, the UAE, and now Saudi Arabia are all full members of MBridge. Almost at the last minute, right before the Kazan meeting, the BIS sent Augustus Garsons. I think someone else has taken over as general manager, but he was the acting head of the BIS till his term ended. He told us we couldn't be a part of it. The BIS can't because it has technology that would let any company decides to go around Western sanctions. It's like he's just realized that Russia is the hour of BRICS. For a while, it was very quiet. Now we'll talk about an announcement from about 6 weeks ago. And I don't think we've talked about this, which is why you said you had China says. We've changed the name of this technology, and now it's called the Renminbi Cross-Border Payment System, or the bridge. We've also linked 11 Asian countries and 5 Middle Eastern countries as our first use of this technology. ASEAN is made up of 11 Asian countries that make up Southeast Asia. Together, they make up 35% of the world's GDP. Since then, 2 things have happened. Now, forget about the 5 Middle Eastern countries that are adding on to it. You're talking over 45% of global GDP just in those countries. This technology is not compatible with the dollar, the euro, or the pound, i.e. the SWIFT system. It settles in 7 seconds instead of the 3 to 5 days that SWIFT takes at a 98% reduction in fees, but it's free from SWIFT interference. 2 things have happened subsequently. One, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, came out and said, we're going to offer this technology not just to the BRICS countries, but we're opening it up to the world, except it is not going to be opened up or compatible with the dollar, the pound, or the euro. So in other words, they're opening it up to everyone else but us in the West, and they're starting with the Belt Road Initiative, which is 75% of human population right now as it is. So you add in this technology to the BRICS, the Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, you're talking 90% of human population who will have the ability to transact outside of SWIFT, settle in 7 seconds, and at a 98% reduction in fees. The second thing that came up was a statement or an admission, or it was in Reuters, and they said the Asian countries now represent China's largest trading partner by far, and they are double the size, about 800 million people, of the United States, and they are now China's largest trading partner by far. And the United States has dropped to number 3. So you put it all together, you have a system that is growing, that is expanding, that is cooperative, and that is keeping the West out, and the West keeps overplaying their hands, we do, by doing things like imposing 50% tariffs on our allies like India. And then I think it's going to have negative effects and ramifications that I don't think people quite understand yet. This is the acceleration, this growing bridge. And the last piece I would add to that is that now you have China coming out and saying, and here's another piece, we are going to internationalize our yuan, and by doing so, yuan is now immediately convertible into gold. Right now, without having to switch into dollars, they just made this announcement a few months ago in the Shanghai Metals Exchange, and you can take delivery in the new facility that just was completed in Hong Kong. So if you are Saudi Arabia and you sell your oil to China for the yuan, you can immediately convert it into gold. On the Shanghai Metals Exchange and their new facility in Hong Kong, but gets better in that. The next facility that they are building to expand the infrastructure for settlement is, you guessed it, in Saudi Arabia. It's under construction now, And their intent is to build this multi-jurisdictional system of vaulting throughout the Belt Road, throughout Asia, Africa, and a little bit in Europe to facilitate settlement. So all of these countries that will trade local currencies back and forth, you keep hearing local currencies, they'll trade their local currencies back and forth over the Umbridge network, settle imbalances in gold, and take delivery through multi-jurisdictional vaults. Perhaps they sprinkle gold each country in all of the vaults around the system, and you see vaults springing up in Singapore and Moscow and St. Petersburg and Dubai, the new BRICS facilities that will be built. All of this will be the skeletal system of this new settlement system that they are proposing. Now, we once talked about it as the unit. The unit is what Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil, and the head of the BRICS New Development Bank said they had agreed upon in principle. I believe they have kind of shelved that until Trump is gone. Instead, China is taking the lead and saying that it wants to internationalize the yuan instead of kicking them in the teeth with a common settlement currency, which is what they agreed to in principle with Trump. It's the same thing. China just calls it internationalizing the yuan. You can trade in local currencies, but not with SWIFT, settle imbalances in gold. It's almost the same. The way they run their business, the unit is made up of 60% BRICS and other currencies and 40% gold that can be delivered on demand through a network of vaults. I'd say that's exactly what they're doing. They're setting things up so that they can just move the unit to the right place at the right time. But yes, the BRICS are getting bigger, and I think it would be a big mistake to underestimate that right now. Rising geopolitical tensions have made bullion more appealing as a safe haven, which is why investors have chosen it over other asset classes in recent months. Silver's falling value compared to gold and copper and its growing supply made it a valuable metal that was used in a lot of transactions and money systems. Changes in trade and resource policies that seemed small at the time now point to a major overhaul of the world's money system. Power is already changing because of gold, silver, and new ways to settle disputes. How long until everyone agrees that the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency? Leave a comment below with what you think. If you learned something from this video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to find out about our new videos. See you in the next video.